Hello, and welcome to the Universus Academy box opening for Dark Tournament. Our friends at UVS Games hooked us up with a box. Thank you for that. And we're going to take you guys through it, but not in the typical traditional fashion like we have before. Instead, this time, we're going to go and we're going to open this box. We're going to take the 24 packs. We're going to separate them into 4 stacks of 6. And we're going to simulate what you might be getting in your sealed pools and how to put together a deck that way with all 4 stacks. So strap in. It's going to be quite the ride. So we open the box, counted out our stacks. 6, as you can see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And yeah, we're going to open these up. We're going to go through. First thing you're going to do is, of course, pull out your characters to the side. So that way, you know kind of what your options are. Characters should be here in the back. Past that, I will pull out like any of the shinies, just that way we have those pulled aside as well. But we'll go back through and we're going to look at, in greater detail, kind of what our options are once we've seen what characters we have pulled. All right, so there we go. 2 down. So I mean, in general, yeah, you should be getting. All right, there's Hiei. He would probably be a front runner because he manipulates speed, and that's always good. Maybe depending on, I guess, what all you get, you may want to go a different route, but I'm a big fan of being able to push attacks through. Oh, hey, there's an ultra rare. Trace Eyes. It's a pretty sweet pool. All right, there's our other character. So far, I believe there was something going on with the pre-release or with the release kits where like there might be a chance you're not getting a character or something in packs. It's supposed to be pretty unlikely, but it could happen. All right, so there we have the double. So not so great. Another shiny. And there's lots of really good, just like generic attacks in this set as well. Lots of like 4 for 4s that are just gonna kind of help flesh out your deck. Oh, cool! Dimensional Sword. Cool. So 2 ultra rares in these 6 packs. So, and then we got Chew. So 1 duplicate, then a Chew. I definitely would probably go Hiei here. That's just from the character options you have here. The others are going to require a lot of like their kit, and he's just kind of generically good, losing life to add some speed. So then from there, you're going to want to start going and looking through and seeing, all right, what all attacks do I have? What all foundations do I have? And the good news is that, because it's sealed, you don't really have to worry about matching symbols. You just kind of take the best of the stuff that you got and you build your deck. So you'll probably just play most, if not all, of the shiny cards that you get. Let's go through real quick. Probably should have just gone ahead and pulled out our foundations along the way, but that's okay. Other things you want to kind of keep in mind as you're going through you're building these is, of course, obviously your ratios for your foundations to attacks, but also you're going to want to look at your blocks. Like if you don't have any high blocks, that's not going to be great. Let's see. Okay, so not much in the way of actions or assets, really. Oh, hey, that Hiei card's going to be pretty good with Hiei, right? One of the retro ones that we brought back. So we can just kind of snap include that. And then we got our attacks here. Again, here are our foundations. So what I would then do is, of course, go and try to sort through these. And, keep in mind, you have time to build, right? We're going to simulate it multiple times, but you'll have time to go through and pull these aside and build them. All right, so, and then these are all 4 diffs. So, probably am not interested in trying to run any 6 diffs, just in general. They're going to be incredibly difficult. And then you're going to want to go through, like I said, you're going to want to include that because that has a character-specific text, it can relate back to him. Then you're going to want to kind of look through and just see what your other abilities and options really are. So, like I said, would not really be interested in 6 diffs, but 5s, 4s, and then even, potentially some 3s. Like these cards both have great low blocks on them, and they're 3 diffs. So, like, you can just throw these at the end of chains, get some damage in when you normally wouldn't be able to. You're going to want to look through your attacks and kind of see what they're doing, see if there's anything that kind of complements, like, for example, like this is basically just a breaker 2, right? Probably not so great, not terrible, but not so great. If you have something else, say that, maybe draws a card, or here's a throw that just does some damage. Here's another Hiei card. Like, maybe that's a sound starting place is look for cards with your character that you selected on it, and then go from there. Gonna do the same thing with the foundations, and select foundations. Again, you don't want a whole bunch of 2 diffs. You're gonna want to have kind of a smooth curve, probably more 0s and 1s than anything, and then add in some 2 diffs that are relevant. Like if you pull your character's team, clearly you want to run that, because that's gonna just be doing lots of useful things for you. Other thing to, again, keep in mind is not only your checks and difficulty, but those block zones. I'm telling you, you're going to want to make sure that you have plenty of blocks of each zone for your sealed pool draft, because the reality is that you're going to have to block. None of these characters can get by without blocking, and if you happen to just build something that's all mid blocks, well, then you're going to run into a problem, because there's lots of really good off-zone attacks in this set. I'm going to kind of fast forward through this process and show you the deck that I end up building from this, and then we'll kind of talk about where we landed on it. All right, guys, so I put the deck together. I'm going to start off by taking you through the attacks and kind of how I came to the decisions that I did for which attacks to run. So starting off, I included any of the shiny attacks that I got. If it was a rare or an ultra rare or a secret rare or something like that, those cards are going to be strong. Include those in there. If the card has your character's face on them, those are also probably going to play well with your character. So something that I would consider. Had a couple of attacks that had my character's face on them, so went with those. And then outside of that, I was just looking at what cards I had pulled and noticed that there was kind of like this stun sub-theme. So we went with any of the attacks that had stun on it. And then there was also, kind of this weapon sub-theme as well. So I tried to include some weapons to kind of get some more out of my dimensional sword. And then past that, it was just some attacks got included because they had a good block. They had the right block zone. Ultimately, I ended up with 15 attacks, which if you're building a 40-card deck, isn't a bad place to be. You'll end up with 15 attacks, and then you'll end up with about 25 or so foundation or just non-attack cards in general. So that's where we landed on with those. The only non-foundation, non-attack card that we ran was Sakio's Gamble. And this card just says get +3 damage, and sometimes it says get +6 damage. So that's just going to, help us out, especially given that, Hiei can just nuke a block and force them to redo one. So, that's kind of where we started and landed on for the attacks and the reasoning behind each of those. All right, so for foundations, you really just kind of want to make sure that you have plenty of spam, so 0 and 1 difficulty foundations. And then also just foundations that are kind of doing useful things. Your 3 difficulty foundations, I ended up with 3 of those. They're going to be your high impact kind of cards. These are going to, reduce an attack's damage to 0, seal a card, add some stats, replace itself. Like, it's going to be things that you're going to want to do. Other things you may want to look for is, shoring up whatever your character's weakness may be. My character adds speed and takes speed away, and they can also kind of take care of a block. So I mentioned earlier I was noticing a stun theme across my attacks. So I kind of leaned more into that with the Frightening Calm. Having more stun and giving me ways to destroy my foundations is never bad. And honestly, when it comes to foundations, main thing I was looking for was making sure that I had blocks. Like, I wanted at least 10 blocks of every zone, and I was able to do that. And most of the cards are still fairly playable, but like I said, if they're not, then find a way to get rid of them. Whether that's something like Frightening Calm to destroy them, or something else to flip them, to reduce damage, or whatever it might be. You just want to make sure that your foundations are doing something, and that you can play enough of them, so that way you can build your 10 foundations. Hopefully, not too many more than that, unless you're fighting, I guess, maybe Younger Tagoro, and he might have something to say about it. But making sure that you can go and pass your checks, and then also that, like I said, they just do useful things. Card draw is a great one. Like if you have cards that say draw a card, include those. They're going to be useful. But yeah, overall, I think the deck turned out pretty well, and definitely something that I would feel pretty good about playing in a sealed event. So we're going to go through and create 3 more of these, and we'll discuss them in the same way. All right, guys, so on to our next set of 6-packs. Again, we're going to go through and kind of just simulate what you might be doing when you crack your 6-packs. So far, the Hiei deck seems pretty solid, but, we'll see what we get this going on this time. Oh, well, hey, there's a very good Ultra Rare to start off, so that's a strong start. Hey, there's another Hiei, also not a bad start. Promise, I'm not planning on only building Hiei decks. So I am going to be more proactive this time and separate the foundations and the attacks. So we'll put foundations here and attacks down here. So, Hiei is definitely not a bad sealed character to play. I mean, adding speed, like even just this interaction right here, he can add speed to that attack and, try to get it above the threshold that it wants to be at, so that way you can have the other effects online as well. Shishi Wakamura again, all right. Oh, this one's the retro cards. And then there's our rear. Let's go ahead and pull apart the foundations and the attacks. So, again, there's only probably a few characters that you're going to want to shy away from, and those are going to be the ones that, like someone like a Yusuke is going to be tough to really utilize the character, just because, he wants so many spirit cards, and you're only going to get so many spirit cards within 6 packs. So you're really not going to be able to take full advantage of the character. Oh, hey, there's a shiny character, so that's kind of awesome. Here's a regular character, which is only disappointing after pulling a shiny character. Here's another action. Here we go. These are the foundations we just got. Here are the attacks. And we got old Yusuke. So, yeah. We're making our way along. So far, probably still leaning towards a Hiei, but Karasu could be pretty interesting to do as well. My concern there is that that character just has 20 health and has no means of surviving. Like, their means of surviving is making sure that it is only 6 foundations in their stage, and maybe they check badly, right? Which is kind of a risky situation to put yourself into. Pull out the attacks. Okay, concealment. There's a non-foil version of him. Another retro reprint, and another Masho concealment. So we don't have a Team Masho character yet, so it's not gonna make a huge impact. But if we pull one, that card's real useful. And it's not bad by itself, but right now I'd be leaning towards Hiei, but hopefully we pull someone else that seems pretty interesting as well. Oh, hey, Knife Edge Deathmatch. Hey, oh, there we go. We know what we're doing now. We got Young T. Yes, that character is a character that he just does the damage. That's what he does. So he's not concerned about anything else. He's got 32 life, and he's like, come at me, hit me, I'm cool with it. I just wanna punish you for building your foundations. Oh, and Korbara. All right, also not a bad pick. Oh, cool, Rando Spirit Gun and Genkai Spirit Gun. It's the Spirit Gun pack here. But yeah, so given these packs and given these pools, I'm definitely going to lean towards Young Tagoro I think viable options, like none of these are a terrible pick. I think it just depends on what you're going to try to do to shore up. Like Korbara can reduce a lot of damage, get some free builds. It's going to be a little bit more difficult because it has to match symbols, and it's hard. You're not going to have as many cards to match symbols with. So there is that. But even the committal and getting momentum's not bad. Playing a card for free is never bad. But I think for our purposes, I'm going to build Young Tagore out of this set. So let's see what all we can put together. All right, guys. So, like I said, went with younger T, and this attack lineup again, 15 attacks. It's where I normally try to land in a sealed environment. I was able to secure my block zones. So with this character for attacks, since he doesn't add any speed, he's just adding a bunch of damage, I tried to look for attacks that, again, had some high printed speed and also were off zone. The other thing I looked for were throws. So I included every throw that I pulled because his ability doesn't say non-throw. And then I tried to include off zone stuff. If it had stun on it, cool, but I didn't really prioritize that. Throws and high base speed and off zone. Like that's what I was looking for with this character. And of course, we pulled the 1x copy of Sakyo's Gamble, which in this character also can get us momentum because he has Team Tagoro, so that card is fully online. Would run more if I'd gotten more. But in general, like I'm feeling pretty good about this attack lineup. It's a little bit steeper on the difficulty curve. Almost half of my attacks are 5 diffs. So that's not ideal, but given the attacks that I pulled, it's kind of where I landed and what I had to do. All right, so here's the foundation base that I landed on. It's kind of all over the place. One thing, again, try to prioritize. You'll notice that like over half the foundations are 0s and 1 diffs. Then our 2 diffs are some pretty impactful cards. Try to make sure, again, they had the right block zones. In particular, you'll notice I have lots of like 5s and 6s. Try to stay away from 4s. I got a couple. But that's because, we're running that steeper difficulty curve on our attacks. And our character does help mitigate that because, we can play a 5 diff, use our characters once per turn, then clear it and add it down to build it, and then play another one. And just, keep checking 5s. Or even if we check a 4, then we just have the face down that we just built. So the deck's got some cool stuff. There's nothing too incredible going on here. The body memorization is kind of a cool one. In sealed, you might end up with people who pull multiple copies of the same attack, and maybe they want to try to like push in with them, and you're like, no, we're going to set it to 0. So that one's kind of cool. Mainly, again, just try to get lots of card draw. If it said draw a card, I put it in there. Lively defense is another one that's really good in this environment because it's going to net you effectively 3 because it clears the block and gives -2 speed. So that's kind of awesome. But yeah, in general, you just want to make sure, again, that you have playable foundations. A lot of times it won't matter as much as what they do as it will how good your attacks are and what your character is doing. So those are things I normally try to focus on and make sure that I have some consistent plan too. But overall, this looks totally fine and playable. Lots of 1Xs, so it's not going to be super consistent. But what is going to be consistent is the fact that I'm going to build, and then my rival is going to build, and my character is just going to scale with that. So definitely another deck that I think would be totally fine to go and play in a sealed environment. All right, so after kind of going through all the cards, ended up landing on Suzuki Suzuki as the character to go with over Genkai, mainly because I really didn't have that many +3 and higher block mods. And having that filter and those extra blocks off the top of your discard definitely seem better for a sealed environment. So with that, the things that I tried to lean into were, of course, made sure that we had our at least 10 blocks of every zone. And then, from there, we also went and I tried to lean into face downs. And that's in kind of like ranged momentum generation kind of stuff. So I have a handful of attacks that kind of just automatically generate a momentum. I've got Shapeshift Decoy with POW 3 to kind of be a way that I can push damage through because my character doesn't do that. So I just wanted to make sure that when I was playing attacks, they were impactful. So that's kind of what steered my decision making there. And then the face downs, kind of going back to utilize some of the foundations that I'll be including in the deck as well to kind of get some synergy going on there. So overall, this seems to be like an even less cohesive attack lineup, but at the same time, probably can get the job done. A fair amount of off-zone attacks and, a nice mix of highs and lows, in addition to just some really solid effects that should be able to help, push some of this damage through that we're trying to get through. All right, so for my non-attacks, we snap included the Genkai's Guidance and the Indune box, because both of those are just really powerful effects and really going to make an impact in any game that you get to see them. Past that, foundation-wise, again, try to make sure that we have plenty of spam. Looked for things that could add damage where we could find them. Of course, anything that could draw a card where we could find it. Even further, in this build, we actually looked for things to flip because Weapon Clash should be able to help us really stay alive and reduce some damage. That plus Enormous Axe to add some damage as well, because again, that's what our character doesn't. So you'll see a lot of these foundations that we selected just have flip as a cost. Really try to include as many of them as I could. Not all of them are there, but lots of them are. And that's kind of the game plan here is, build out, play defense best we can with our character, commit things, block, flip things to do stuff, and then destroy those things we flipped with our weapons clash. And hopefully we can stay alive long enough to, get our Enormous Axe or something else online with some of those powerful effects or things like that to really push through the kind of damage that we need to close games out. All right, and here we have it, our final pod of 6 packs to build this last deck. What you'll probably notice is that there's some consistent guiding principles among all of these that we've been doing so far to kind of, make sure we have our blocks, make sure we have our spread of foundation difficulties. All right, so we got Toya, so that's a new one. 80% power, that's a goodie. Toya, probably not the ideal character, but at the same time, you work with what you got sometimes, right? So, let's see. Maybe we'll pull, hopefully not 6 Toyas. That'd be kind of uncanny, right? But, it's not a 0% chance that can happen. All right, well, there you go. Elder Tagoro, also a pretty cool one. Botan's coaching, so that's kind of cool as well. So we'll go ahead and pull out the attacks from this pack. I've noticed that in some packs I'm only getting like 3 attacks. Like, it's pretty light. Can make it a little bit challenging when you go to try to build your attack lineup. Yeah, think about that. That'd only be, if we were 3 in each pack, that'd only be 18 total attacks that you get options from. And if we're trying to run 15, it's really like, all right, pick the 3 you don't want to run, right? That's not every pack, but it's definitely happened a few times. So just know that might be some type. Oh, hey, Cape of No Return. That's a pretty good card. Oh, boy, yeah. Maybe contractually obligated just to play him off of principle alone, right, guys? Get to preview a character. When you get a chance to build them, you kind of got to do it, right? See, this pack had 5 attacks in it, so I think it balances out the odds of you getting 3+ attacks. Oh, and an Enormous Axe. That's awesome. Getting only 3 attacks and multiple packs seems pretty low, but again, it's not zero. Keep in mind that a lot of these things are just kind of random luck when it comes to sealed. Like, you get what you get in your 6 packs, and you just gotta hope that it's good enough, right? So let's see. Oh, there's a Jin. Welp, that guy's a clear front runner for best character. Oh, mastering the dragon. That's pretty sweet. Man, it's kind of upsetting because I want to build good stuff for you guys. I want to show you, like, hey, here's what I would probably actually do in the situation. So what I would probably actually do, unless everything else points towards Bowie, is we're gonna be building Jin here, guys, in this final pod, because that guy just adds a free plus or minus 2 speed, and sometimes it's just +3 for no reason at all. If that's the rate that we go, we'll probably build a little bit thicker deck, and that's mainly because you're milling a card, and in this 40 card deck format, like, you're gonna race through your deck if you don't kind of fatten it up some. Oh, there's a Yusuke. Again, similar problem to the other Yusuke, where like, you're not gonna have enough cards with Spirit in it probably within your 6 packs to really take advantage of that character the way you would want to. Competitively, in constructed, sure, characters got plenty of targets, some very, very cool things that they can do, but in sealed right now would probably power the Yoko. That's pretty hot. That's pretty hot. And then Younger T, we already built him, but this pod ended up actually having quite a few viable picks from characters slot. So let's throw these down here. Let's figure out what character. So again, I think I probably would take out Goro and Yusuke off the rip. I think Toya again is okay, but probably not compared to these others. Like, Jin just does the same things but better. And Bowie, he's cool. We already built Goro, but he would be definitely in consideration. But I think, like I said, I think this pod's going to end up being a Jin build. So we'll see what all we can put together for him. All right, so we did end up going with Jin. And I'm not going to lie, this is probably the most difficult deck to build. I feel like, especially when I was trying to get to the appropriate ratios as far as like what I wanted for block zones and then foundations that were playable, it was pretty slim pickings. And this attack lineup, again, not super cohesive, but there is a fair amount of card draw and powerful effects in it. A handful of things that can generate us some momentum, but really banking on our character adding speed to these things to try to push it through so that we can get, to a later game state where we, have some momentum that we're sitting on, and then we're able to, throw one of these powerful 3 attacks that comes across, shape-shifting decoy at 6 printed speed is pretty nuts when you can add 2 to 3 speed to it, right? Or, even, the Banshee Shriek Slash, that's 4 printed. We can get it up to 7, and then it's got powerful on it as well. So, yeah, I mean, like, lots of card draw, so I don't feel terrible about this attack lineup, but at the same time, it's definitely going to really rely on the character to make it work and to kind of get us where we need to be. Now, for as shaky as I said the attack lineup was, this foundation base seems like it's got some really solid options going on here. Of course, we got the gamble because we like damage. Cape of No Return just straight up takes care of an attack for us whenever we can't deal with it. Not a lot of zero disc, but a lot of really playable spam, some good card draw, some speed, some damage, some card filtering, all things you want to see. Mastering the dragon is going to do a lot of work helping you find what you need to find as well. And then we also have some other additional speed reduction. We're probably not going to get as much value out of Enormous Axe in this build, but it's not a zero value. I think Resting Up was a really great pull for this build because we have a character that does want to commit, and prevent them from doing something on their attack. So that's really good, but then you can also just do that aggressively and then start blocking. So yeah, there's some there's some pretty solid lines here defensively. And again, offensively, we're just going to bank on our character given 2 to 3 speed to really push things through, and then powerful to really do the damage that we need to do to close these games out. All right, guys. Well, that brings us to the end. Hopefully you found this helpful. Saw some consistent things in the way that we were trying to build these decks, but here you got all four very different, a couple similar, some speed reduction characters, but then we got a deck that just wanted to add a bunch of damage. We got a deck that just wanted to filter and try to block. So there's lots of directions you can go when you get into one of these sealed, so don't feel like you have to play a certain character. Just try to figure out what's best for the cards that you get, while maintaining, your block ratios, and then, some sort of ratio of attacks to non-attack cards as well. If you like this version of a deck or box opening, let me know in the comments below. And even further, let us know exactly how who you ended up playing and how your sealed ended up going down in the comments below. If you haven't yet, make sure to like and subscribe and do all those algorithm things. Thanks, guys. We'll see you later.